What is going on, Raiders? Soda Dragon here. Welcome, and I hope you guys are doing well. So what have I got for you guys today? I'm going to show you how to build an unkillable team for the clan boss with only one man-eater. And don't worry, the only person that's going to cast Unkillable, that is keep your team unkillable, is that single man-eater. So no, we're not going to use any other champions that cast Unkillable or block damage or anything like that. The Unkillable rests on that single man-eater. Now this team does require two champions, one of which is your man-eater, but the other champ you're going to need is a Painkeeper. She is a rare void champ. Now this type of team, the man-eater Painkeeper type unkillable team, is normally called a budget unkillable. But this is different than your normal budget unkillable. This is going to be an ultimate budget unkillable. So what makes this the ultimate version of your one man-eater or budget unkillable? Firstly, there are no gear swaps. So typically you'd have to swap gear to change the speeds for your slow boy, that is your slowest champion, between Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. So every time you want to do Nightmare or Ultra Nightmare, you have to change their gear around. And if you have the right gear, it can be as simple as one piece of gear that you're swapping out. But that, obviously, I'm not cool with that, all right? If you have no other choice, that's fine. But if there's a better way to do it, come on. You don't want to be swapping out gear every time you switch from Nightmare to Ultra Nightmare. So in this composition, there are no gear swaps at all between Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. And one more thing that makes this ultimate is our entire team is composed of void champions. What does this do? Now, with this type of team, the budget unkillable, you have to guide the stun. You need certain characters to be stunned and not other characters, in particular your man-eater or your Painkeeper. So it can be kind of difficult to make sure that clan boss hits the right target, especially if the clan boss changes affinity. All of a sudden your slow boy, whoever that is, your stun target, may be the strong affinity versus the clan boss, and the clan boss decides to punch somebody else. But in this comp, since it is all void, it works for all affinities. You do not need to change anyone out of the roster. So once again, no gear swaps and no changing anybody out. So guys, let me break down how this team works, starting with our only two necessary characters here, Man-Eater and Painkeeper. So what is Man-Eater doing? He is casting Unkillable for 2 turns, and I'm going to speed tune our team so that those Unkillable buffs are up for those 2 big AoEs of the clan boss. So all of the AoEs of the clan boss, we will have those 2-turn unkillables up for our whole team. And what is Painkeeper doing here? She is making sure those cooldowns are reduced for that Ancient Blood ability of Man-Eaters, that unkillable ability. So once again, we are protected from those AoEs from the clan boss. But you might be saying, doesn't the clan boss have 3 attacks, one being a single target stun? Yes, the clan boss does, and we have a nice answer for that. What is the answer? A very slow champion. And what does this accomplish? Well, basically, this champion is much slower than the clan boss. So by the time the clan boss gets to that 3rd attack, that single target stun, our slow boy here is so slow that those unkillable buffs haven't even fallen off him yet. Okay, so we're going to make sure that the clan boss targets this particular character, and I'll talk about how to do that later. But when he hits him with that hard single target attack, sorry, those buffs have not fallen off yet because our slow boy is so freaking slow. So really, our slowest champion here, our slow boy plus our 2 open slots, those are reserved for damage dealers. So most of the damage is going to come from those 3 slotted champions. Though our Man-Eater and Painkeeper can do a significant amount of damage though, if you happen to put them in toxic sets or build them with crit rate and crit damage. So here's the complete all void affinity friendly team that I have for you. Once again, you don't need to switch out your slow boy or anybody on this team. It doesn't matter what affinity the clan boss is. And with the speeds and the setup I'm going to show you, you don't need to change any gear out either. Now I know what some of you guys are saying. Firstly, I don't have Urost. Does this team require Urost's soul cage? And the answer is absolutely freaking not. No, it does not. Don't be turned off by this team because you see Uros there. It does not require him. The only reason I'm using him is because he's a poisoner and he's void. He's the only one I have. If I had another void poisoner, which I'll talk about some other substitutions later, that's completely fine. Don't be turned off by Uros here. You don't need him at all. Another question you guys might have is, do I have to build this team all void like this? And the answer is no. Now, there are advantages to building all void because you don't have to worry about affinity. Whereas if you don't build it all void, you do have to worry about affinity because the stun target might change depending on the affinity the clan boss changes to. But that being said, it is completely fine to make an unkillable team like this without a completely all void roster. So yes, Man-Eater and Painkeeper, they will be void because they're required for this team. But the rest of them, they absolutely do not need to be void. In fact, it's much more common to see non-void versions of this type of team. So we talked about how this team stays unkillable, but how does this team do damage? We'll talk about that. So Euros tier is going to be our poisoner. So how does he work through his passive here? It's really cool that when he gets hit, he has a chance to apply poisons. And if the clan boss is under 50% health, that clan boss will start double hitting on his AoEs. All the better for this guy who's going to apply much more poisons. So this guy's more of a passive poisoner. He needs to be hit to be poisoned. If we're talking the clan boss is above 50% health, it might be better to go with an active poisoner. That is somebody who doesn't need to be hit to poison, but can just poison off a skill. Next up, guys, got our 2 bulwarks on the team. So what do? They have a really cool passive here that when they're attacked, when they're hit, they have a 30% chance to extend the duration of all debuffs. All debuffs, not some, not 2, 3, whatever, all debuffs. Now notice we got 2 on the team. So we have such a high chance of extending those debuffs, in particular those poisons that Euros is putting up a lot. Every time those AoEs go out, we have a good chance of extending those debuffs. Plus, Bulwark does have a nice HP burn on his A2, plus he has a weaken small version on his A1. And yes, these debuffs as well, we will be extending like crazy with our 2 Bulwarks. And remember what I said in the beginning, that our slow boy, the person that's going to take that single target attack, is our Bulwark. Once again, that's another chance to extend debuffs because he's taking that single target stun. So every attack of the clan boss, we have a chance to extend those debuffs. So you're going to see it in the run. It's ridiculous. Those debuffs basically never fall off. So quickly, guys, what other void poisoner options do you have besides Euros? And you can see here it's going to be Eurogrim, and you can see here that I don't have him, or else I would be using him. But yes, he'd probably be one of your best options if you're lucky enough to have this guy. Another void poisoning option would be Rowan here. She can actually put up a sizable amount of poisons with her A3. And if you guys are going to go the non-void route, but you want some debuff extenders like our Bulwarks, well, another great choice here would be Stout Axeman here. So he has a passive where basically he has a chance, 25% chance to extend the duration of all debuffs when he's hit, when he's under a reflect damage buff. And yes, he can put it on himself. Don't worry, that's included in his kit. But here is a good non-void option for extending debuffs. Alright guys, here we are on Deadwood Jedi's website. So here are the speeds required for this particular comp. Now the fastest character is going to be your Man-Eater at 256 speed, and your slowest is going to be your Slow Boy or Stun Target. So that's going to be 129. Now if these speeds are too hard for you to attain, then you can go with the more traditional budget Unkillable, where you have to swap a gear piece out between Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare for your Slow Boy. So that is an option. If you want to go with that other budget Unkillable, the speed thresholds are slower. So that's good, but you have to swap gear pieces out. Bad, okay? So it's up to you. If you have the speeds, definitely go for this one because you do not have to swap any gear out between Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. But the other older budget Unkillable, slower speeds required, so less speed requirement on your gear, but you have to swap that piece of gear out. Another difference with this and the older budget Unkillable is that this newer version does not work on Brutal, whereas the old budget Unkillable, where you have to swap out gear, does work on Brutal, Nightmare, and Ultra Nightmare. So here we're only talking about Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. So if your goal is to beat Brutal and you want to do something like this, then go ahead and go with that older budget Unkillable. But unfortunately, you're going to have to swap out gear. All right, guys, here are the particular speeds for my team. So we're starting off with Man-Eater here, and he's at 257 speed. We have Painkeeper here at 223 speed. We have Bulwark at 129 speed, and Bulwark is going to be our slow boy. We have our faster Bulwark at 188 speed, and we have our Euros the Soul Cage at 180 speed. So everyone on my team is the same speeds as shown on the previous page, except for my Man-Eater. He's 1 speed faster, and it still works. So that's the thing. If you're not reaching the exact speed requirements, you're up or down, maybe 1, check it out in the calculator, try it out. It might still work. Just because these people come up with these comps doesn't mean that they try out every possible speed. So there might be a range. So definitely experiment if you don't have the exact speeds. It might still work out. All right, guys, so what kind of damage can this team do? Pretty good. This is a 2 to 3 key Ultra Nightmare team. So once again, quite good, even considering Euros is not the best choice for Poisoner. I only used him because I had him. But the question is, can you 1 key with this kind of budget Unkillable type of team? Yes, you can. You can 1 key if you want to push it all the way there. So it is completely possible with this budget Unkillable setup, this Man-Eater Painkeeper setup, to 1 key Ultra Nightmare if you want to put in the gear grinding and you got the right champs for it. If you want to see that 1 key Ultra Nightmare budget Unkillable, let me know in the comments. Alright guys, on to the skill instructions. So far 2 Bulwarks, go ahead and leave them default. For Euros the Soul Cage, turn off the A2 and the A3, they don't really do anything. For your Man-Eater, turn Ancient Blood onto the first priority, and for Painkeeper, Combat Tactics is going to be number 1, and make sure to turn on Spectacular Sweep to be number 2. Remember guys, our battle with the clan boss is one long round, so it doesn't matter what you put for round 2 and round 3 because we will always be on round 1. Now for all budget unkillable teams, there is some setup, though it's not too complicated. Really all we care about is our Man-Eater and our Painkeeper using their skills at particular times, but with everybody else, it really doesn't matter what skills they use. So for Man-Eater here on his first turn, all we need him to do is cast his A3 Unkillable, and that is it for Man-Eater. Next up is going to be Painkeeper, and all we need her to do is A1, then A2, then A1, and push auto. That is it. So 4 things we need our characters to do. Man-Eater casts A3 on his first turn, and then we don't care about him. And Painkeeper does her A1, then A2, then A1. Now in between Painkeeper's turns, of course you can see me do things with other characters. But once again, they don't matter. Don't focus on them. Just focus on what I'm doing with Painkeeper, because right now she is the only one that matters. So starting off with her A1 here. So once again, I'm just going to cycle through people's skills. This all doesn't matter. You can do all A1s. It would not matter at all. Okay, Man-Eater doesn't matter. Okay, now we're going to go with the A2 here. Once again, just cycle through everyone else's skills until we get back to Painkeeper. Now we're going to use the A1 again, and afterwards push auto. A1, and then we just push the auto here and we're done. Now for Nightmare, the setup is a little different, but it's still pretty simple. So what we're going to do with Man-Eater is we're going to delay using his A3 for 1 turn. So we're going to go A1 for his first turn and then A3 for his second turn. And Painkeeper is so simple. All you're going to do is A1 twice for her first and second turn. So once again with Man-Eater, we're going to delay using that Unkillable until his second turn. So his first turn, use whatever. So use that A1. Painkeeper, once again, we're going to use 2 A1s. So this is her first A1 that we're using. And once again, just cycle through everybody else because they don't matter. Do whatever you want. Okay, now we're at Man-Eater's second turn, and yes, we're going to use that Unkillable. And now we're at Painkeeper's second turn, and all we're going to use is that A1 again. And that is it, guys. All you do is press auto from here. All right, guys, onto everyone's gear stats and masteries. Starting with our slowest champion here, our slow boy, our stun target bulwark, and how's he geared? No matching sets. Onto his total stats. So I have his HP at 43,000. I have the attack at 2100, the defense at 1900, speed 129, crit rate 52%, crit damage 120%, resist 197, and accuracy 228. So guys, how do you make somebody your stun target? How do you make sure that that clan boss always attacks that particular character with a single target attack? Well, it's kind of complicated. A lot of factors go into it, like defense, affinity, lineup in the roster, HP percentage left. There's a lot that goes into it. But the simplest thing for this type of lineup, an all void lineup, would be defense. So put the defense of your slow boy as low as possible. On the other hand, you do want the HP to be high. Okay, now he is not the highest HP character in my lineup. It's going to be Uras Soul Cage. But still, if you can make him your slow boy that is the highest HP character on your team while being the lowest defense character on your team, that would be the best type of scenario. And guys, just remember, if you're not using an all void lineup, then yes, you do have to worry about affinity. So even if your slow boy, whoever he is, your non-void slow boy, happens to have the highest HP on the team and the lowest defense, it doesn't mean that clan boss will always attack him, especially if he's the strong affinity to the clan boss. The clan boss might just choose to punch somebody else with a single target attack. So if you're using this type of team and you're not using an all void team, then make sure you have a few different slow boys for those different affinities of the clan boss. Onto his masteries. So here down the offense tree, we do have Life Drinker, so you're gonna heal for 5% of damage dealt when you're under 50% health. And yes, we do want our slow boy to heal up somewhat. Now here we do have War Master, so we're getting bonus damage based off enemy max HP. And down the support tree here, we do have Sniper, so we increase the chance of landing that A1 weaken. And we'll also have Master Hexer here, so we are potentially extending the duration of those debuffs, that HP burn and that weaken. But that being said, with the double bulwark on the team and that debuff extension just coming from that passive, you might not even need these two at all. So just focus on War Master here, so you're getting that bonus damage, and Life Drinker here, so you're somewhat healing up in between attacks. Next up, onto our faster bulwark. So how's he geared? I have him in a defense set, a speed set, and a broken set. Onto his total stats. So I have his HP at 41,000. I have the attack at 1600, defense 4400, speed 188, crit rate 41%, crit damage 131%, resist 258, and accuracy 266. Onto his masteries, and they are exactly the same as our slower bulwark. And remember guys, for your speed 2 and clan boss teams, you do not want any masteries that increase your own turn meter. Once again, you do not want any masteries that increase your own turn meter. So for example, we would not take rapid response here for any speed 2 and clan boss team. We would not take Arcane Celerity here. We would not take Cycle of Revenge, and we would not take Oppressor. All right, guys, onto our Painkeeper. So how is she geared? She is geared in one speed set and a few broken sets. Now, some of you guys might have noticed that, yes, I am running toxic sets on a few of my champs, or at least I experimented with toxic sets. That's why they have those broken sets. Now, what's my advice on toxic sets? Well, if you're running a double bulwark composition, if you have a strong version poisoner that is a 5% poisoner in your last slot, then equip nobody with a toxic set. Once again, if we're running double bulwark with a poisoner and that is a 5% poisoner, run nobody in a toxic set. This is because those weak version poisons from the toxic set will compete for space on the debuff bar with those strong version poisons, and those weak version poisons will never go away. With double bulwark, they will keep on getting extended infinitely, so you're not doing your maximum damage. Instead, you want to keep that debuff bar free from other types of poisons except strong version poisons. Even if your poisoner doesn't poison that often, it doesn't matter. Bulwark will still extend them and extend them and extend them, and they'll be reapplied and extended. So eventually that debuff bar will be completely full if you have that 5% poisoner. Don't worry about a toxic set with a 5% poisoner. It's completely unnecessary and it will lower your damage. But on the other hand, let's say you don't have a 5% poisoner, then yes, it's fine to equip 1 or 2 toxic sets. That should be all you need. On to our total stats. So I have her HP at 47,000, I have the attack at 2100, defense 2500, speed 223, crit rate 50%, crit damage 134%, resist 196, and accuracy 128. On to our masteries. So down the offense tree here, we do have Life Drinker, so we're healing for 5% of damage dealt when she is under 50% health, which she will be a lot of the time later on in the fight. And we have War Master here, so we're doing bonus damage based off enemy max HP. Now down the support tree, there's not much we really need, but here, We have Lay on Hands, and also we have Healing Savior. So this helps with her healing. She has an AoE heal, which is actually quite useful. So make sure to get these two to increase her healing. Onto our Man-Eater. So how have I geared him? I have him in 3 speed sets. Onto his total stats. So I have his HP at 40,000, I have the attack at 2,600, I have the defense at 3,400, speed 257, crit rate 61%, crit damage 108%, resist 224, and accuracy 108. Onto his masteries. So down the offense tree here, we do have Life Drinker, so we're healing for 5% of damage dealt when he is under 50% health, which he will be a lot of the fight, especially later in the fight. Now we do have Cycle of Violence here. This would mess things up as far as the speed tune, because he'd use his A3 at wrong times if this worked. It doesn't work against the clan boss, so it doesn't mess things up. Nevertheless, just don't pick this. So here we do have War Master, so we're getting bonus damage based off enemy max HP. And down the defense tree here, we do have Retribution, so we have a chance to counterattack when he gets hit with a big hit. Over 25% of his max health, he has a 50% chance to counterattack, so this is a good one as well. Alright guys, on to Euros. Once again, not needed for this comp, pick any Poisoner, but nevertheless, how have I geared him? I have him in a regeneration set and an immortal set. Onto his total stats. So I have his HP at 95,000, I have the attack at 1600, defense at 2800, speed 180, crit rate 20%, crit damage 113%, resist 179, and accuracy 334. So the only stats you really need for your DPS / poisoner are going to be defense. Remember, you want your defense higher than your slow boy. You want the right speed to be in the speed tune, and you need enough accuracy to land those debuffs against the clan boss. So hopefully you can get 250 or above. But that's pretty much it. This crazy HP that you see is because I used Urost in different areas of the game. That's why his HP is so crazy. HP is really not needed for this fight. Onto his masteries. So down the offense tree here, we do have Life Drinker, so we're healing for 5% of damage dealt when he's under 50% health. And we do have War Master here, so we're doing bonus damage based off enemy max HP. Now, if you want to, you can go with Sniper here, increase the chance of landing his poisons, and also Master Hexer here, so we're going to extend the duration of his poisons. But really, with Double Bulwark, these are not needed. So these are good masteries in general for him if you're using him for general content, but not really needed for this particular fight because we have those Double Bulwarks really doing a great job extending those debuffs. Alright guys, that is it. So hopefully if you've seen budget unkillable stuff before, this video was still something new with the all void lineup plus the new speeds and setup, so you don't have to swap out gear anymore. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you think about this comp, and if you want to see other types of budget unkillable comps later on with different DPS champs. And if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, and share, turn on all notifications, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.